Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for everybody coming in. Welcome to our show again, our monthly connection. Hi, Tuna Cheki TV. Um, it's glad to see you. We are connected to you better now. Can actually, sorry, internet connections, and environmental. Personally, this week, I actually went through something that was very triggering. It was more on a sexual connotation, but traumatic, and actually reminded me of things I went through in my past. So today we have our a couple queens that you haven't got to see from our panel in a while, and I'm so excited that they are here with us today. We have our Sabarucha, Sabarucha. I always say your name wrong. I always say it wrong. Don't laugh at me.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, and Eberucci. How are you?
I'm good,
Ladies,
thank you.
good. And we haven't seen you in a while, too. So we're so happy to have you back.
Yeah, that
Yes, and so to talk this morning, right, and to engage about our coming of age series of what we do. But one of the things we're talking about is trauma, right? Um, I wanted to jump into the fact of maybe what traumas have you experienced. I'll be a little bit transparent. I one of my biggest traumas that I experienced through life is actually sexual. I had a situation this literally this week that happened right in a store, in the front of a store, in broad daylight. So it just was triggering for me, and I was just wondering, before we dive into the in particulars we're talking, have you guys felt any trauma in your lives that were substantial? Abaruchi or
okay. Yeah, for me, um, growing up, the one experience I had, which has not been so palatable, had been ethnic issues. Yeah, in Nigeria, I'm from Nigeria, so I live in Nigeria, and Nigeria is a multi-ethnic state where we have diverse ethnic groups, and there is this. It has been passed down from generations, even up to mine, where we've not been able to align ourselves, irrespective of our different um, ways of life, are different ways, ideas towards things, and it's still there today. And these things result in issues in the society, political issues, economic issues. Like recently in Nigeria, this year has been with a lot of dramas. We've seen
mm,
uprising from the eastern part of the country, from the western part of the country, people saying let the country split, tension and all of the likes. And when you really go down deep down and ask, if you ask the younger generation, okay, what is really this difference, what is really this thing we are fighting for, they really cannot point to it like, okay, this
mm,
is it. Or they really cannot say, okay, this is the main thing. All they just know is we've already been trained, or we've already been groomed to feel as if, or groomed to think that this other person doesn't like us, this other person doesn't have us at heart. And these ethnic issues, these ethnic differences, for me, it has been a whole lot, because I have struggling in wanting to, like, you meet somebody who is way far away from you in terms of culture and the likes, differences, because there are similarities in this, you understand. So we meet people like that, and in wanting to blend with them, there's this obstruction there for you to
mm,
blend with them. There's this obstruction where the person feels this kind of sense of insecurity, like, I don't think I can trust this person to the core. This person may one day turn the back and stab me, and like that. And the
mm,
thing is, when it's not being solved, it's being transcended to generations, and younger ones who do not really understand what are called early in Nigeria, in the early stage of building Nigeria, in the early stage of Nigeria's emancipation, who do not really understand what has transpired, just go on with hatred for not just good reason. Like for an example, there's a marketplace very close to my area, who in the market a particular person from an ethnic group died. So they were
Mm.
contemplating, because here in the setting, when someone dies, they pay respect in form of maybe closing the market for a day and like that, just the way of paying respect. And there were debate over closing the market. Why? Say, oh, this person is from this tribe. When this person from this other tribe died, nobody did anything, and people were arguing, and it became a serious debate. And little things like that keeps expanding, keeps blowing up, and really do not know what to point to is really the issue in our society.
Oh,
So for
wow.
me, one trauma
Interesting.
issue is has been this ethnic difference.
Wow, that's a good one. That's a deep one. That's interesting. How about you? Step over to you. I'm
It's quite
But
interesting that
Sambua.
I'm on the other side of Africa, and I can easily relate to whatever Bertie is saying
Wow.
because we have the same thing.
Wow.
We've been raised to know that a particular tribe has an issue with our tribe,
hmm,
and
Wow.
it's not something that we can trace to where it started. And so we
Wow.
grew up in a situation where our grandfathers, our great grandfathers, and our fathers were like, you cannot marry from this tribe. And so when you ask why, they're like, no, we just, it's not part, no, that's not it. So do not do it. And so I remember something that my grandfather said, and that was, do not marry past Nakuru. And so we were like, why? It doesn't make sense. This, as in, we are acquiring generations of hate with other people, yet it has nothing to do with us. And so now it's become a situation where the only time we see an ethnic issue is during elections. Like
Mm.
now with Kenya going into a political year, we're expecting to see a lot of ethnic divide.
Mm.
And this is always brought up by our politicians because they will find every single way possible to pin us against each other. But it's funny
Mm-hmm.
because in a period of 4 years, we have no ethnic issue.
hmm,
But that 1 year is it's hell. You
It's so
know, it's the
true.
Kikuyus
They,
against the Luos.
yep.
And it's not making sense to any of us because we are all, we've reached a point in a society where we are all intermarried.
hmm.
And then you hear a politician telling you, if your wife is Kikuyu, send her home. And you're looking at them like,
And
are
it's
you
crazy
serious?
because it's crazy how that goes. And funny to hear that from the States because, you know, on our, on what we consider our mother, or who's some, I'm Caribbean, so I'm from Haiti. So for me, my mother island is also the continent, right? I mean, my continent is my motherlands, right? And there, for me, you look just like me. We have the same blood, even though I understand differences in tribes and so on. I do, but I couldn't see that. Like I could understand more so maybe coming from here saying like I don't want you to marry like outside of our race. But internally within our races to be doing that, like I'm confused.
It's brewing a hate that shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
That's
So you're
and the
raising
political
children.
part is
So we're raising
crazy.
generations of people that will hate each other, but do not know where the hate started.
Yeah, see, and these are conditions. These are conditioning people because if you can't even remember, that's almost like a Romeo and Juliet type of story. Like
Yeah,
Montague versus like they've been fighting for forever. Why were you fighting? That's actually
exactly.
that's crazy. And it does bring I love that I asked you guys because it does bring us a different route, but this is a political year, right? This is for me, this is for others. I personally felt that with Black Lives Matter. They use that whole situation for a political run, you know. And for me, it was quite racist, and it used Black lives to perpetuate an agenda, and all of a sudden it's like flittered away, right,
Yeah.
right. So to hear it in this dynamic to my mother continent for the people who look like me, with the divides that we suffer, it's so heartfelt but hurtful to hear, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
And you see, it's so funny because even as women,
Hmm.
we are also raised with the things that women can do. So
Wow.
imagine we are fighting tribal issues, clan issues, and then women issues on top of that.
Right.
Hmm.
Oh my
That's a
gosh.
good one.
And I could only imagine, and I'm just going to speak it. I'm not with it because we're women here, but there's complications just walking, being a woman. There's complication of a woman, a Black woman, indigenous or aboriginal woman, right? But men have that same issues, and I just wonder what does that play like as well, and how they see it.
Hmm.
That would be a great platform, great time to talk about that on our platform for another show, because again, that's not a space and place I can understand because I'm not a man, but to hear it from your perspective as women, I'm in the States. I'm actually like, wow, I'm surprised. And for our own to do that in a political way when you guys should be doing something completely different in a political matter, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not internal. The structures that are perpetuated onto you, you need to look outright, right? It's not an
Yeah.
internal thing. So why are we doing this?
In fact, I think men go through more of the childhood trauma. Not
Mm-hmm.
that I'm minimizing the women's side,
Right.
but you're trying to imagine this is a young boy who's been told crying is weak,
Mm-hmm.
showing your emotions is weak.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great
And
point.
so we've removed the human aspect of
Hmm.
our men.
Right.
And now we expect these men to be husbands who love us, care for us, are supposed to be vulnerable with us.
Yes.
But they've been taught, going up all the way, that no, showing emotions is weak.
Right. And
So
then
now we have this disconnect of what we expect from our men or
mm-hmm.
what we need from our men, but they cannot show it because they're like, oh no, that is weak.
Right. And
And
we
we
have the
live in a
audacity.
generation,
Yeah,
yes, and
not
we
to
live in
not.
a generation
Mm-hmm. Keep going. Yep. Mm-hmm.
that a man who wants to show feelings and emotions to his woman is now called a simp.
And we have the audacity to call masculinity toxic.
There it
Yeah.
is.
You understand? That
He needs
actually
to be
to
a
me,
protector, a provider, and all these things, but
I
he cannot show emotions,
and
and
then
he's human.
and he's human. You're 100% right. I To me, this is actually why on our other platform, but the interviews when I do have men, I try to give them that voice, right? Because you do. Oh, that's be a man, be a man. We don't cry, we don't cry. And then there's a post like this. There's a meme like the mom, like boy, men don't cry, men don't cry. But then your wife is like, you don't say anything to me. You're not emotional. Why don't you open up?
Hmm.
That's
Yes.
us,
And
ladies,
now,
women. That's us.
yeah, and now their suicide rate is high
Right.
because they cannot show these emotions.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right.
And then society has twisted it to a point where now we women are now more masculine,
Mm,
more aggressive. And so there's such a difference in it's a detachment between our men and us. And then we're fighting to be in the same space.
yeah,
And now we really don't know ourselves.
yeah. I
Hmm.
Yeah.
agree. Abaruchi, what would you think? I agree completely. What do you think?
I agree with Sister Simboa. I really agree with her because when we've groomed them to like this men don't cry. It's very common. Very, yeah, it's very common. You hear it, and when they grow up with that mentality, I'm not supposed to show weakness, I'm not supposed to cry. What do you
Hmm.
expect from them? Excuse,
Right.
they over time grow and lose that sense of humanity. Sometimes when we complain about ills in our society, negative things in our society, one thing we're not careful enough is to look back to the foundations we've laid, to what we've been doing in the past that has brought about it today. And like you earlier mentioned that the kind of trauma you experience, and Sister Diana, you mentioned sexual trauma. The one pain about sexual trauma for me is this, that it is, instead of tackling the issue itself, we just keep passing blame. You see, some people who actually are sexual predators today had been a victim of sexual abuse at one point in
True.
time. Not all,
That's
some have been
Yeah.
victim, and because
mhm.
we've been forced to, you're not supposed to say it out. It's shameful. Just keep it to yourself. Both the female and the male gender this time around, we see it happening, and you see younger ones suffering from it. You see the circle not being broken. You understand? And again, for a family, a lady coming from a family where perhaps the lady was born out of wedlock, and she had been groomed to know that, oh, you're a failure, you're not for good, you're not for success, you were born out of wedlock. It's the same thing is gonna
Mhm.
happen to you, and so the child grows up with that mentality. You wouldn't be too surprised to find such a person ending up with teenage pregnancy or pregnancy before marriage and a whole lot of, like, and we see these things continuing and not being settled. So the issue of this trauma is, make it end with you. Make it end with you. If it had been from, because as a person, I tell myself, like, in the ring of my friends, you would find that majority of my friends are not from my ethnic group. And that is me. I just say, if everybody thinks the other person from the other ethnic group is an enemy, this will continue to grow, and it will get to a point whereby we leave our children to war, to conflict. But when you make it end with you, tell yourself, this might have been what these people have. Yeah, they might have experienced some things which make them hold this kind of view. I choose not to hold this view. I choose to be different. And we're able to break this circle and save the future from unnecessary conflicts and, heal feelings and likes.
Mhm. You said something, and even I'm watching the comments. I don't want to get people to think what we're saying is. I know men can be emotional. I'm just saying overall. We're saying overall in society, we we put that down in youth and then ask for it more in adulthood. I'm not saying they
Hmm.
don't. I'm just saying what we do as women to you, or what we're saying. And what you said actually hits, because when it happened recently, when you're talking about the sexual, it was funny because it became a trigger. It did knock me back to a place, right? But and one of the things I don't normally do, we guys talk about this, right? Like letting the audience be a little bit more engaged in the behind the scenes of
Okay.
us, right? Like,
Yeah.
so for the very first time, I actually went on live. Like usually I'm interviewing, but this time I just went live, right? And I conversed about what just happened, but it wasn't out of place of anger. It wasn't at a place of fear, but it was a place of like, I've gotten past the scared little girl. I've got past the
Mhm.
angry teenager, and young adult. But now I want to be the understanding woman that's trying to work with my community, right? Like I need to understand why these type of the cause and effect of it. Like why, even though this situation has brewed for years, but now it's what mentally is here and what's going on. Why are you doing this? How did you learn this? Because more than anything, we were taught it, and a lot of people were taught it because something happened younger to them. If you think
Yeah.
about films like Buck Breaking, you could think of the entities they did to us during, however you may call it, slavery, whatever, where how they broke the men, or women, was one of the ways was through sexual assaults or, SA, sorry. You know what I mean? So where did that come from? Why are you doing this? It's not an anger anymore. It's not fear. I want to understand now, right? So I get where you
Right.
were saying, so how you said that, Aberruchi, it's like so funny because that's what I said on my live. I'm like, I want to understand. I don't want to pass this over. Like, we're not going to sweep it under the rug, but I'm not going to make it act like I was just actually SA'd in front of the store. But you did something that was gravely inappropriate in broad daylight, right? Why? Why?
I'm looking at a comment
You
here
know? Mm-hmm.
Myself.
by Patrick Wallace. He says, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily sisters,
Touch it.
because
Touch
a
it and let it come
man
up. Oh, can
doesn't
you see
shed
it? Or I'll bring it
tears
up.
means he's
Mm-hmm.
lacking
Mm-hmm.
in emotions or a sense of humanity. A man is a man, a warrior.
Yeah.
But my
That's what
question
I was
is,
actually responding to. That was right. I was
yeah,
like, I
in
wasn't.
2020,
Yeah,
what
that's what I was trying. Keep
you're a
going.
warrior
Keep going.
for what? Who are you fighting? When
You
you
want to
say
know
you,
what's funny?
when we say warrior, a warrior went to war and he came back after he won. But what are we fighting now? What's the
And
war
you
now?
want to and you want to know what's funny? I like you said that because my fiance, he actually said to me, um, people don't understand that the revolution now is an evolution. It's not going to be like bang bang shoot 'em up, but we're going to have to out evolve. And
Yeah.
we are already doing that. That's why everything is going haywire right now because they're on their
Yeah.
final grips of trying. But the revolution is an out evolve. So when you say warrior, how does that look now? Right?
Mhm.
It's a war of the mind more of the mind and of skill than of force and brutality.
Mm.
Right?
And you see,
Although we're being impacted by force and brutality.
yeah, exactly. And you see, when I'm talking about the power dynamic and the man saying, I'm a warrior, uh, from the African perspective, we can understand the warrior concept. But we're looking at a situation where the women now are warriors as well. So it's basically like going back to the original Africa of where we were partners with our men, as opposed to a
Yeah.
woman is lesser to a man.
Yeah.
So we're looking at a situation where women now have careers, women have choices, women have a voice, and the men still want the wife, the lady who stayed home, took care of the kids, while the woman is looking for a career and all these things. And then when you come together, we still have the old mentality and the new mentality. We are supposed to mesh these two ideas and find a balance of where we can exist in union together. But instead, now we have the superwoman who's like, no, I do not want to do. And then we have the man who's coming in with, no, a woman is supposed to obey, a woman is supposed to. It's a power dynamic that we grew up with. Women were taught to be a certain way, but they reached a point in their life where they were like, no, I do not like how this is going. I like this. I like having my own voice and being able to do this. But the man was trained with your work is to provide, to look, to and wait for a woman to come and do all these things. Now you see where the childhood issue comes in. We have generations of women being taught what they're supposed to be, but each generation corrected the mistakes they made before. But we have the same men who were like, no, a man will always be a man. A man is strong. He provides for his family. And so it's so crazy because now the woman is like, I can provide for myself as well. So why do I need you?
I
And now we
think
have a total disconnect.
I think what we forget to do, and ever to jump in when you can, I think what we forget to do is realize again the cause and effect. We were put into a very misogynistic situation that wasn't of us before. We
No.
understood the divinity of a woman and the authority of a man, right? Even from our well ancient selves. Our kings still needed the divinity of our
The queen.
goddess or the
Mhm.
queen to become that king. We knew women were divine, and in that divinity, we gave the authority to our man to um to play their role. And in that,
Yeah.
that's true governance. Some women also just need to know how to fall back. It's okay to be soft and strong,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And some men also need to like come up, and it's okay to be vulnerable and strong,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
But we
Yeah.
also, as women, we've minimized our own divinity in falling for that misogynistic structure that was put on us from outside coming in,
Yeah.
you know? And 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 I think that's really the balance, particularly in that world with trauma, for me, especially in the dynamic of men and women in our particular um, manifestations, right? Because even for me, I feel like what you were saying before, internally for us, if you were, let's just say, if you were concerned about like China and Russia coming after you right now, you would be concerned, right? But if you
Yeah.
heard Russia and some like small island that you never heard of off the coast of like wherever, right? It's coming after you. You're just going to focus on Russia, right? Us as a people, we need to strengthen those internal structures before we start aligning everywhere, right? Before we make friends everywhere. We need to hone it and connect it and get it together right here,
Yeah.
right? I'm not saying that doesn't mean we can't intermingle, but part of our trauma is not understanding our enemy, right? We fall into the same structures that is messing us up. Like, this is why I'm saying, like, as a Black woman, I shouldn't be able to walk anywhere. And if I just shouldn't even have to know you, but if you're a Black man near me, I should feel safe.
Hmm.
There was a time I could do that. And especially
Yeah.
working for the community, especially working for my people, right? There shouldn't be any island, any country, any continent that I can't step on and a Black man sees me and I don't feel safe. A Black woman sees me and I don't find my sister. You
But you
know,
see, this
that's
is the
our
narrative that has been sold. So we've been
right.
sold a narrative of fear.
Hmm.
And that's why we keep being told carry pepper spray, carry a gun, carry a taser.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because they have sold us a narrative of, as a Black woman, I should constantly be afraid of the Black man.
Mm.
But why am I afraid of my own person?
And you know, that's a
Why
structure
am I
to
afraid
have
of?
them afraid by, and that even started with Black having white women. That's like a feminist thing. They just wrapped us in, but that really started by
Yes.
making white women be a victim of Black men. And we just
Mhm.
got wrapped into that. But that's not even our fight.
And you see, there's a political saying that says to destroy the Black family, to destroy the Black community, destroy the Black family.
Mm.
Hmm.
So they
Mm-hmm.
have pinned us against each other. So
Can I
now
tell you?
we are destroyed. We are
I
no
agree.
longer communicating.
Let me tell you, one of the first things that really had me a problem when I went to the BLM um, website for the first time, when they had this particular thing directed to breaking down the nuclear family. For me, I have a problem if you are
Mhm.
not trying to help the nuclear family. That means man, woman, child. They got everything for
Yeah.
woman and child, but they're not having any components to support the nuclear family. I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Because if you're not supporting the core cause and effect, if that family cause will become dramatic effects, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I couldn't even stand behind that. It's so funny you said that. It's crazy. So and even like, and I love this conversation. I don't want to say, but since we're in the half hour mark, I just want to even kind of thread it to the fact of how here and now I'm becoming a representative of my island, right? We have
Yeah.
those structures that are there completely. But then you bring it to not only having maybe this misogynistic structure, both men and women, young boys, children having hardships, but then you bring um, a colonial suppression and then environmental situations. And now you have a trauma that you can't even like perpetuate, right? I can only go but so far with this, but I can't say I've lived through an earthquake. I can't
Hmm.
say I've lived through, um, you know, watching everything crumble in front of me. I've had own stories that, imagine going through what I just went through. Let's just say sexual trauma. I was just told a story in my own family that was really traumatic, but helped me, that, somebody was held by gunpoint and something. Like, let's just imagine something like that happened to you on one day. Um, and you don't have pads, for example. And you have a horrible day, you go to sleep, and then after your president was just shot, you go to sleep and the world starts shaking around you
Hmm.
and everything crumbles, right? So imagine that situation, and you wake up to a place in space where everything looks like this. What do you do with that? Because currently, right now in Haiti, these are the things that they experience after a second attack, which I personally feel can be considered orchestrated for me. I don't know what you guys may say and feel, but just imagine what we were talking about, but then your next day looks like this. Where and how and what would you take from this? How do you deal with that? Where do you go? Right?
Yeah. The thing on my mind right now is the children,
Right.
because not only do you have this political fight, you have Mother Nature as well. So it feels like an attack from things you can even control.
Right.
And so they're going to grow in an environment of where I can't trust Mother Nature, I can't
Hmm.
trust politics,
Mm,
and it's a world of chaos and distraction.
mm.
So this is a
Amen.
child who will constantly grow up on the defense mode.
Oh, that's
And
great.
eventually, we are going to see this child as an adult,
Mm-hmm.
wondering why they are constantly lashing out at people.
Right.
And for us to understand, it means we have to go back and see the environment they grew up in,
Hmm.
because our environment shapes who we are when we grow up.
Yep. Yep. What would you say too?
Eberici.
Does that bring anything to
Yeah.
you, Eberici?
It's like Sister Sambora said mentioned, our environment shapes who we really are. For you to really understand a particular person or why people act the way they do, sometimes you would have to look into the environment. For example, like Sister Simba mentioned, a child growing up with the defense mode. I really love that. The defense mode because of the situation surrounding the child's birth. What will you expect of such children? Although I really have not had much to say about environmental trauma, but I really do understand for a fact that it has a lot to do with it has a lot to it has a lot of effect in a child's growth, in the growth of members of the society. Like for example, here in Nigeria, in the northern part of the country, where we always have insurgency, kidnapping, and the likes,
Mm,
There was a particular time one of my uncle was also kidnapped, and everybody was just troubled in the house. Everybody was wondering, hope is going to be released someday, and
right.
people live without fear. For these same issues, you see some people who are reluctant to go to schools. There's no fear. I don't think I'm sure I can go to school. I don't think I'm safe going to school.
Mhm.
If I go to school today, the next morning I wake up in the hands of some unknown men and the likes, and people
Mm-hmm.
are afraid of going out to do their daily activities. All of the fear caused by the issues surrounding our environment. I really do not know much to. I really do not know have much to relate with environmental trauma, but I understand for a fact that it has a lot to do, and it has a lot to do with child's growth, and it also affects again in the near
Yeah.
future if not properly handled. If Because if a child is such a person who grows up in an environment which is not secured, such a person would always be scared. Perhaps a person like that would not always want to settle down. Like, okay, what if tomorrow such a thing, something else happens here? What do I do? How do I start again? And
Mhm.
person just becomes a wanderer, just wandering
S-
Yeah.
everything.
I'm with you.
Because there are
So,
two ways
mm-hmm,
to go about it.
mm-hmm,
And as a child, you either grow up hating the environment and hating everyone around the environment, or two, you're going to grow up being very super humanitarian. I
right.
want to do this. I want to fix this. I want to do this.
That's
But you see,
probably me.
both of them are defense traumas.
It is.
They're
It
defense
is.
responses. They're trauma responses. So I'm
I
going to be
feel you.
very super environmental because I want to change my environment, but that's a trauma response.
Mm,
Or
that's a
I'm
good
going
point.
to grow up
That's a good point.
hating everything around me
Hmm.
and
Right,
not
right.
wanting to deal with anything that's working around. And anytime something small goes bad,
Hmm. Keep
I'm
going, guys.
going
Keep
to
going.
flee. I'm going to flee. And that's another childhood trauma response. So we are constantly trying to figure out how what we are dealing with today is as a response of our childhood traumas.
Hmm.
I feel when Kenya was experiencing the coup in 1992, most of us were very young. And so we didn't even fathom what was that all about. But as adults now, we understand what a coup looks like, why a coup happens, and the political issue that is surrounding it. And you see, a child growing up in such an environment where nature is coming in, their
Uh,
president was killed. You see, it's going to be a bit difficult
yeah,
to understand why a
yeah,
president was killed at a young age. But as an adult, they're going to understand and they're going to process it. And it's going to be quite different depending on how they choose the trauma response that their mind puts them in.
right. So, in this part in time, I do want to bring in our guests because we actually have a gentleman who, is a man and could give some insight to this, right? But was there when the earthquake happened in Haiti, and trust me, with the assassination, I could go for days with what. So, but that being said, our guest today, his name is Mike Grims, and he has a really cool background. He does do uh, digital art and design. He has a graphic company. I actually love this motif that he creates. I want him to explain it just because I did have his paperwork in front of me. I'm going to pull it out in 2 seconds, but I really love his creative artwork and media company. But this is where what he was doing when he was in Haiti. He actually is part of coming together with a family who teaches Haitian fencing with the machetes. Okay, so like my joke is, you want to know if we're Haitian? We usually have a machete. Mine's right here. So that being said, I'm gonna bring in and literally, like you think I'm laughing, but like literally, she's right here. So that so that being said, and because of this guest, so that I'm going to be bringing in Mike right now, real quickly for me. Hi, Mike. Thank you so much for being a part. And listening in. I do have to tell you guys, I'm going to let you take over a little bit. I have a quick emergency that I have to take care of outside, but then I'll come right back. But Mike, if you can, give the audience a little introduction of yourself, and then if you don't mind speaking not only about what you experienced before, during, and after the earthquake, um, and also as a man, how did you feel about some of the things we were talking about?
Okay, yeah, no problem. I appreciate you guys having me on the platform this morning. So I'm, from the United States, born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. Um, been in IT for over the last 20 years. Bachelor's in electronic engineering and a master's degree in network communications and cybersecurity. So I've been in this industry for a while, getting into cloud technologies, data analysis. But really about 5, 6 years ago, um, I started having a strong connection with going to IT. Recently found out, my mom and them, they're from New Orleans. Their side is from New Orleans by way of IT. But and wanting to study more of African-based martial arts, indigenous martial arts. Of course, I started studying capoeira, and then I started getting into different African spiritual systems. But I got very curious about IET. Um, number one, about the when I first started learning about the Haitian Revolution, and then number two, how were they able to defeat what at that time would be considered world powers. And so that's what really sparked my interest into the indigenous religion of Haitian and Voodoo. And then I stumbled upon an organization that was preserving the Thierry Machete, Haitian machete fencing, which was one of the tactics that they used to actually, defeat the colonial powers. And so that led me to start supporting the family about 5, 6 years ago. And it's,
Okay.
due to some things over the years in IET and during the pandemic, uh, people weren't able to go over there and train with the family for about 3 or 4 years. And usually with the training, there's an exchange of, the family that train you, um, you meet the community, we eat together, we drink rum. There's a strong sense of family and community, even though people that come to train come from all over the world. So this year, I was able to go. Didn't think I was able to be able to go because we had set everything up. And of course, everybody knows what happened on July 7th. And we were due to touch down in IET on August 7th. Um, but despite all of that, I said, what, let me just go. I mean, because part of it for me was not just learning the art, but being able to help support the family. Um, they work hard, they have other means, but this program, they kind of look forward to it every year because it really helps them not only continue, living, but it kind of helps provide a nest egg for anything going on. But the good thing about it is, with the Ivor family, when I was there, like I said, everything is community. Everything is family based. So when we came, not only were we helping them, but they in turn also share it with the community, which is important. Which
Yeah, Diana was telling us that you were in Haiti when the natural disaster happened. Just give us a little insight on what was going on and what's happening right now.
yeah, so before then, that was my first time going to Haiti, Haiti, and of course, through different, people I've met, documentaries, webinars or whatever, you hear about certain things that's lacking on the island. Uh, but it's different and it hits different when you get to see it firsthand. So even before the earthquake and the hurricane hit, we had went to a party at Jacmel to have lunch on the beach, and it started raining real heavy. Um, and the thing about it, even here in the states, I've been through rainstorms that were heavier than what I experienced. That was on Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken, I was there. But just to see how in other parts of the world where infrastructure is at a certain point, how a simple rainstorm can really stifle a community was mind blowing. Um, Washed away part of the bridge. Um, then, like you say, in dealing with trauma, for me, I was just looking at some of the people's faces because one minute they're going about their daily lives or something like a simple downpour of rain uh, just disrupts, what would be considered everyday living. I mean, you had us on one side, and we had to get to the other side. We had people on the other side had to get to the other side, and we're talking about how they gonna get home. They got young children with them. They got groceries, women carrying things on their head, and they're literally stuck. And fortunately, I crossed the river, but I had a little episode with that because as I was trying to cross, there was a young Haitian young man. He was trying to cross with me, and he slipped and went under the water. And I was in the current was so strong. I was trying to keep from letting him go so he wouldn't drown. But the current was so strong, he pulled me down as well. Um, so it's for a minute we was just being carried away by the current. But then, like I said, a bunch of icy men jumped in and it kind of helped us out. But that just goes to show you that, like I say, I've never been in an environment where, due to the lack of infrastructure, something that, like I say, would not affect any other part of the world where infrastructure is developed, it literally had people's lives at a standstill. You know, what do you do if you're a young mom or a guy with young children, and maybe you could cross, but you don't want to take that risk, with your child. And so fast forward, we got through that. That they didn't even ever recover from that part. And here it comes. That was Wednesday. Here it comes Saturday morning. Here comes the earthquake. And so when the earthquake hit, and then you have something else. And at that time, I didn't know if I was going to get out because we already knew when the earthquake hit that the hurricane was coming. And I wasn't due to come out until I got stuck because of riots that broke out Friday night. Earthquake happened that opened up a small window for me to get to a small airport to get to Port-au-Prince so that I could make it back before the hurricane hit Monday. But to kind of tie everything into the discussion, uh, as far as the masculine and feminine, uh, just in that 9 days that I was there, I saw the importance of being able to balance between the masculine and feminine from the women and the men, especially when you're living in a country where at any point in time any type of disaster can hit. You know, hell, I saw men when I was in the airport when they was bringing in the injured. I saw men crying. They crying because they're holding their baby. They don't know if the baby gonna survive. And I have children, and I can only imagine you wanting to help your child, and there's literally nothing you can do. And I saw some of the men crying, and the women were kind of being strong to calm them down. But then I saw others where the women were distraught, but the men were trying to hold things together. And so, just for things that I've done, um, certain spiritual practices, I was watching some of the comments. Sometimes I feel like people think tapping into your masculine or feminine energy means you have to take on a mannerism. Tapping into your feminine energy doesn't mean you have to move physically like a woman. Tapping into your masculine energy doesn't mean that if you're a woman you have to move or take on mannerisms as a man. I
Mm.
think sometimes people confuse that. That's not what that is. Because let's be honest, you get certain chromosomes from your dad, certain chromosomes from your mother. So everyone has that duality in them, that masculine and feminine energy. And I like the way you guys were discussing it because, like I said, some people can confuse that, which means that in order for you to tap into either or, you have to embody certain mannerisms. And it's not what you guys are saying. You guys are coming at it from a much deeper level and coming at it from a standpoint of let's try to get out of our psyche what the Europeans have misconstrued as masculine and feminine energy archetypes. And
Mm.
let's get back to what our people understood it as. Because it's not so much displaying something physical, but we're talking about more or less of the energy and the spiritual of tapping into the masculine and feminine energy. And you need that,
Mm-hmm.
especially when hell, when my ass in there, I'm sorry, when I'm floating down that river, getting cut up by the rocks, and I'm trying to hold on to this dude. Um, I was scared. You're not gonna
Right.
lie, but part of the warrior energy, which I hear some of the comments, and then part of the feminine energy was this is my brother here.
Mm.
I'm not gonna let him go. So the nurturing part, which is the feminine, is like come hell or high water, we're both drowning because I'm not letting him go. But the masculine, the warrior was in me to fight to keep both of us alive. And then at the same time, those gang of Iceland men that jumped in, they didn't know me, but part of the masculine and feminine embodied them to risk their lives for me and the other guy. And then at the
Mm.
same time, the masculine, which was that warrior spirit, they didn't even think twice. It was like a gang of them just jumped in. So um, it's necessary what you guys are talking about. Sometimes trauma, um, especially trauma from a society that, like you said, we have been forced into to misconstrue that, and part of that trauma can lead to us not, being who our native individual selves are. And I mean, my hats off to the ICN people. Everybody knows the history of Haiti from its inception, from
Mm-hmm.
infrastructure to some natural disasters, some not so much. you know, um, and to me, they just embody that. You know, and I'm not saying that there's every single ICN they have that balance of what you guys are talking about, but for me, for them to still be where they are despite everything, despite all the trauma, um, I saw that equilibrium in a lot of the people when I was there. That equilibrium between the masculine and the feminine. You
So,
know, when I got injured, you had the women come bringing those herbs
I was
and
just going to ask you
fruits
that.
to heal me when
I was,
Western medicine wasn't working. And for one point, I thought my leg and everything got cut up by the rocks. Um, it looked like it was getting infected, but they came in, you know. Um, and here's part of the programming because we all have some type of social conditioning from where we are.
mm.
So I actually felt kind of awkward that the women came and tended to me, prepared the herbs, the bath, and they was literally washing my feet and tending to my wounds. For a split
Mm.
second, I had to be like, get the European concept conditioning out of your mind, because for a minute I felt uncomfortable, but they didn't. They weren't like, man, we ain't finna watch this dude take
Can
care
I
of
ask you something? Sorry, not to jump in, but why were you uncomfortable? What? Because especially in coming from the States, right? Medicine you're used to seeing, especially Black women in. What made you feel uncomfortable in that moment being tended to by the women?
because for that split second, if you allow certain cultural conditioning based on where you're at, especially in this age, not all, but some women would consider that uh, beneath them. You know what I'm saying? And
Oh, I see what you mean.
yeah, and part of me, because I've been conditioning where I'm a man, I got it. Just give me the herbs in the bath, I'll do it. You know what I mean? But I had to quickly get out of that mindset and tap back into how we are natively as a people. And like, no, there's nothing wrong with you know being tended to by the women of the society. You know what I mean? Um,
Yes.
so they were healing.
Exactly.
They, with the next day, everything that was going on with my leg and the scars, that was I had like a
Gone.
beautiful day.
Haiti Shay. What but what finds it funny because I may have grown up, and ladies, let me know what you think. I may have grown up personally a little more masculine than feminine, right? Because like I have a bunch of sisters, so I was like the boy of the house, right? And in growing up as that mentality of I got it, I had to train my mind to again be softer and with that strong, right? And part of as a woman tending to my man is actually very part of me. Like for us hearing that, right? Like ladies, when you heard him entering and the women, that actually just felt very normal, right? Like we would have
Yeah.
taken care of you, we would have been so to hear, and I think even as women, because automatically you become our baby boy in that minute. Not even anything. We got to take care of you. We going on, and it's our nature. But to hear you as a man say you were uncomfortable for something to us that would sound like second nature. You know what I mean?
That's
I
actually
really,
true.
yeah, ladies, what would you say to that? Because as a man, and since you are here, you are a man, you experienced it, and to even hear that, I could even see the shift in how you're conversing about it. And you're like, it really was a comfortable place that I had to get myself out of, where the three of us looked at it like we would have been the same way. We would have had the herbs, we would have got your leg, we would have took care of you because we're grown as women to do so. So to hear
Yeah.
you be weirded by what we're groomed to do for you is another is actually throws me for a loop a little bit, but I would love to get to understand that because I could see it in your eyes, like I could see it in the way you're explaining. Can you take us into that a little more?
Yeah, even I had to wrap my head around because it was the same women. They would come in every day. They would wash our clothes. They would cook for us, and this goes into part of the discussion about psyche and drama. Because for me, growing up in the South and knowing the history of my relatives, some of my aunts and grandmas, they did that for white folks.
Mm.
And so when you're brought up in a culture of society where that type of servitude was provided for by by our people to white people, um, you kind of that trauma kind of it almost makes it sort of incorrectly internalized, but I almost viewed it as demeaning.
Mm.
But I was viewing that from a standpoint of this is what some of my ancestors had to do, not by choice, but I had to
Wow.
take that concept out of my mind and be like, no, it was not us who made this demeaning. It was the system that we were put into.
Right.
This is part of how we as a people before, what took place. This is how we moved as a family, you know. But like I said, when you grow up in a society where, um, and you guys know it through the educational system where it is taught that these roles that aunts and your grandmas might have done were not, yeah, they took care of the home, but this was a means for them to make a living, but they were servants, for white folks. So that kind of triggered me a little bit. But
Hmm.
after about a couple of days, I kind of got it. I kind of had to wrap my head around it.
Hmm.
And just kind of realized, no, I shouldn't feel uncomfortable um, because they weren't. you know,
Right.
they didn't view it the same way as I was viewing it. But it
Right.
goes back to sometimes when you're taken out of a certain situation and you're put in an environment where you belong,
Right.
some trauma that you may not realize is trauma starts to creep in.
Right.
You
As
know,
we come close towards our end, but ladies, just is this at all to you guys also taking you back a little bit as well with the perceptions of Mike at all?
You know, it's interesting because it's first nature for us women to first help. If we
Hmm.
see something that needs that our mother nature just pops in and goes like, okay, we have a situation, he's not looking good, so we're going to call each other up and be like, okay, I need hot water, I need this, we need to attend to this wound and to his temperature. And
Hmm.
now you're looking at a situation of where men have the mentality of, no, 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 we're good. Just give me the medicine and let me go. And this is the divide I was talking about because I was also a tomboy. So tomboy to me was normal. But my woman nature kicks in when it needs to.
Yeah.
So yes, if so if I need to go on fight mode, I'll go on mode. But if I go to nature mode kicks in. And so
Yeah.
you see, when he was talking about the lady taking care of him,
Hmm.
I could literally put myself into the lady's shoes
Right.
because that
Right.
is natural for me.
Right.
I'll be like, okay, so this we are looking at where he is, clothes needs to be washed, the area needs to be clean, let's sanitize the area. That
Feed
is
them.
normal first nature.
Yeah.
But now we
Yeah.
can see it from our men's side, that is not something that's normal to them.
Right. Which is crazy to hear. Like, do you,
Yes,
even you, I want to say, and Mike too, but like, I just want to see the programming here because we are programmed and conditioned to do that. Yet on that same end, they're programmed to want it, but don't even know how to take it, and vice versa. We don't even at the same time we don't know how to take them. Sometimes we want it, but we don't know how to take it. They
that's
want it,
actually
but
true.
they don't know how to take it because we're programmed so much. So it's like, what do you think, Baruchi,
You
before we
see,
go to? Because I both of you, because it's just, I even what Mike, and even watching you, like to see it in your eyes, it's like
I, I,
I'm taken back in a good way, but it's just so educational to me right now.
I'll tell you part of it, especially from the South and my mom. Like you say, that trauma, she kind of overdid it. And what I mean by that, from a very young age, I know how to use a sewing machine. I know how to wash my clothes. I'm not saying that this is something guys shouldn't know how to do,
Yeah.
but Mama reinforced us from a standpoint where washing, cooking, sewing, cleaning, from a standpoint where I've just been used to just doing those things for myself, to where she kind of just really impressed that, to where I have to get used to allowing.
Someone else to do it for you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Especially, like you say, from a woman's perspective. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's also part of it. Kind of made me a little uncomfortable because I just like you say, that trauma. I just grew up with just that imbalanced perspective.
Mm.
You know, especially from my mom. I don't want you putting on no woman. Blah 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 blah. You don't want. Just that. And so I had to kind of get over that as well.
Mm.
But like I say, kind of to your point, Diana, it took me going to an environment where I actually belong to realize how much conditioning and trauma that I still got to
Mm-hmm.
get over. I would have never thought that I would have been uncomfortable, a woman or the women community doing what they did. I just I've never been in an environment where they did that.
Right.
And granted, my mom, yeah, she cooked and cleaned and washed clothes from my dad, but it wasn't from the same mentality as those Haitian women.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming from a totally different energy.
Yep. I know exactly what you mean. Yep.
And this is the exactly same thing with women with independent women mentality
Mm.
of where I cannot do it this everything and I don't need a man at all,
And you see how
which is
damaging
also
it could be.
conditioning.
It's damaging. It's
Yes,
damaging.
it
And
is.
and ladies, you want to know something about getting to know Mike too. And this is actually probably um, a little bit deeper for me to get to know him. But this is a gentleman who's like there for you in anything, right? Quick, like you need it, digitally, financially, what you need it, he's on it. So to see him being so dismayed about being tended to the way he tends for others as well. It's not just fact he can do it, but he tends for others just this way. I met him with the free Haiti movement with Ezeli Danto, and he even on the music for my flyers was he created the clips for like anytime we need him he is there. So to see him be so taken back like that, it's endearing first and foremost. But you guys, if you understood his personality, you would be just as taken back because he does for everyone.
He gives.
He gives so not and to give and a lot of us are like that, right? Even as women too, we give but we don't know how to take back.
We don't know
He's
how
a
to take.
giver. He's a giver. So it's just it's but it's endearing in a sense. It shakes me, but even too with the traumas, but as women we have to understand how powerful we are.
Yeah.
Okay, because at the end of the day, if we don't claim our divinity to give them, our boys and our men, their authority, we're going to keep perpetuating this both ways, right? A lot of some of our trauma is us stepping into our strong and soft. At the end of the
Yes.
day, even the misogynistic value of thinking, guys, don't kill me, just work with me, because I know other people out here in our audience, but just work with me, right? What if God, because for example, women's chromosomes are bigger, mitochondrial DNA, we're born with all our eggs, so just stay with me. What if God was a woman? What
Hmm.
if the devil is a woman too? Because we have to raise your mentality. That woman is who gives you your mentality, right? So, what if divinity was divine and feminine? What if evil was divine and feminine? Because those evils and those divinities come from the women who teach their babies and their communities, right? So, even part of our misconceptions of what creation may look like, whether it be Mother Earth or an entity or the mother that you just gave birth to, however you look at it. But if we just gave it maybe a little more authority in its understanding, understand that the programming we went through is misogyny, and misogyny doesn't come from us. Our men are divinely masculine. Our women are divinely feminine, but it's not feminist. It's not, you know what I mean?
Yes.
That's not even our thing, y'all. That's not even our argument, right? So if we just gave it a little bit of a different look, because like he said, mom is part of his trauma. I love mom. I'm not getting any mom. And mom wasn't trying to do any wrong. She was coming from a place in space where she was trying to protect her black boy.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Because in that time in the South, especially being a black boy, oh hell no, you don't need nothing, baby. You don't depend on nobody. Take care. I understand. I get it. Mama wasn't in the wrong. But then you don't even understand what you broke in his mentality to not be able to maybe take on, and I'm just saying I'm just using me as an example, but to take on a Haitian woman like me who would do that just by human nature. You know?
Yes.
Or African women like you who would take that on by human nature, because the Black American experience is different too. We're in unison, yes, but the experience is different, and we have to give merit to the experience, right? Their experience is different.
Yes, we have a lot of childhood trauma to work through. We have a lot of unlearning and relearning, because a lot of the things that we were taught during our childhood is what we are realizing now is affecting our reality.
Mm-hmm.
It is natural for me to tend to my man,
Very
but
strong.
the independent woman in me is told, yo, you're supposed to be handling yourself. He needs to handle himself.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're in constant conflict with society and ourselves, because our natural selves as women is to tend.
Mm-hmm.
That is us.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
natural self is also being told, no. So how does it work? Look at
Right.
the man, you know, to feel uncomfortable, it means it's a lot of programming that went through while growing up.
It's true. And I want to be able to end with Mike, but Eberuchi, please step in and give us some final words. And I just want to take this time that for our audience, again, connected to this, I also, in connection, we're part of United States, so we bring the diaspora in. I also represent the Haitian American Collaborative, and we are running a fundraiser. We left a comment. We do have a LinkedIn, but we also have a Cash App right now because that was the easiest one to remember, that we're helping on the infrastructures in Haiti, the families that are there, and things that are needed. Guys, we're not even trying to like only just send money, because that's a problem too, right? But like, we understand that plumbing is an issue, infrastructure is an issue. We can only get items from land or by from sea or by air, right? Even once we get inland, there's problems in getting through roads. We have doctors there, we have nurses there, but they can't actually even get to the people that are in isolated areas or even in Port-au-Prince, because there's one major road in and out that has been devastated and broken, right? They need things like salt to pack meat. They need things like jasmine rice or packaged beans. They're not going to be using any kind of like canned string beans. You understand? Like stuff like that too. When we're sending stuff, we also have to understand the area where we're sending to, right? Like they're not going to eat probably the same thing American people eat. They need tents. We need mattresses, like air mattresses, and so on. So we're survival right now, yes, but then sustainability, right? So right now, through the Haitian American Collaborative, this was going on anyway because we were still taking care of 2010's earthquake. But now we're in 2021's earthquake. And like our audience have shown, and you all know, we also went through an assassination right before this. So, and the reality is, I personally feel, you all can work with me, but I personally feel the fight is on with the people that are on the land. And I'm telling you, and I want y'all all to hear me. I believe, and if you're any of you hear me and can see me out here, I believe Haiti needs to come together with Cuba. Cuba and Venezuela and Haiti need to look at each other. Dominican Republic will come on. We will have Haiti. And then after that, I don't care where you come after. We have started a revolution that will create evolution. So, that being said, help us create sustainability and change throughout the diaspora, throughout our continent, our mother continent in Africa, and with IET today. Connect with the Haitian American Collaborative. Our Cash App is going straight to our GoFundMe. We also have a GoFundMe out there as well right now. Thank you for your support. Abaruchi, give us some words. And Mike, I definitely want you to let the audience know where we can find you. I don't know if we gave time for your digital side of things in life, so give a shout out to those as well. But especially with how in you being that male voice with us, I really would like to close it out with how you feel about the topic of today, the events of IET, and you personally. But Abaruchi, please give us some input too, because I know you've been taking this in. So
Yeah, the like hearing
thank you,
Mike's
Tuna Techie
experience.
TV.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, but then Mike's experience is so much taken for me, you know. But the one thing I really have to say about this is bringing balance to what we do. It's about bringing balance. If there's a balance to the woman side or the feminine play the role, and a balance with the masculine role, we can have
Did we lose you?
Her network.
Is she there? Oh, I don't know if it's her network. I hope she comes back in because she's always saying something beautiful and something happens. I like this comment. I love all your comments, but I like this comment right here. You're definitely right. So as we get Abaruchi back,
understand,
maybe with the
because
oh, she's there.
in
Yep.
our wanting to be independent, now wanting not to have so much
Today we've had such a great audience,
We have.
a very, really active audience.
We really have. Thank you guys for the comments. Since we're just having a little dismay, Mike, give us, let's have you come in right now. Give us some where we can find you, the amazing work you did. I just love both the things you do. I love it. I love this project. Please give us some information. Hold on. I just want to bring it up again. This is a beautiful piece. This is gorgeous. And then I also help sometimes. So let us know where to find you. Give us some parting words. And then I'll give our last for the collaboratives thing right here. Okay.
My
So,
IG, I changed it a lot, but right now my IG is Mike underscore writer. Uh,
mm-hmm,
I started a media company where I do comic books focusing on indigenous people and their spirituality and their martial arts. What you just showed is a project I'm doing called Lower of Iridia, where
mm-hmm,
it's really from what you and I've talked about offline a lot, Diana, about the younger generation is really going to project IET forward to where it needs to be. So in that series, I'm getting into the Clinton Foundation, the conspiracies,
mm-hmm.
Knocking Doll, and I want to say what we're talking about in the discussion. I believe is like the sacred triangle. You got to have balance between the masculine, feminine, and the divine.
Mm-hmm.
So Diana's talking about another sacred triangle: Cuba, Venezuela, and Haiti. So with those, that's to me another sacred triangle.
Mm-hmm. I believe.
With those three connected, and then within those, each country, like you guys are talking about, we find that balance between masculine, feminine, and divine. Um, to me, that's a formula for nothing but success. And I believe strongly what she's saying with that, because those three connections, due to history, has similar backgrounds, maybe in different times, but I truly believe if those three can connect, to me, that is the blueprint for a new world order.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, everybody else will fall in line, you know. And it goes back to the comments that you guys made in response to some of the people in the chat. What you guys are talking about, like you said, this is more or less nowadays mental, not so much physical.
That's true.
That's true.
Because we know from the Haitian Revolution, they were outmanned, outgunned, and outnumbered. Yes, they deployed some martial arts and relied on their spirituality to defeat the colonial powers. But when you start tapping into spirituality and all that stuff, you're talking about mindset.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at other countries that have kind of whooped the colonials in the past, uh, Vietnam, um, Cuba stood up to them. They knew physically. Yes, they had warriors, but they knew physically we're going up against these powers. So a lot of their strength came from what you guys are talking about, that mental.
Mm-hmm.
You know, be it was it may, look be as it may, look at in terms of the Middle East. You know, a lot of it is yeah, they have the words, but it's whether right or wrong for them, it's that mentality that comes with it. You know, to me, when your mind is right, especially our people, we can defeat anything.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's great closing. And Everucci, I just wanted to like give you your time because I don't know why that always happens, but finish your thought. Like Everucci always in a beautiful sentence and then something happens. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that.
No
The
worries.
network just went off. Like what I was going to mention, or what I was going to say, is about no sisters well mentioned about we ladies or we women having this helping personality. The one thing I just want to say is there's need for balance. There's need for balance in the sense that I feel my perspective, there's an extent to which you can intervene in someone else matter. There's an extent to which you can help. So you try to understand the other person's boundary. Sometimes you may be offering help with the whole of your heart, and the other person sees it as as disturbance, or you interfering, and so it's needful to understand this. So our help is not perceived as something else. Then, okay, quickly, I just want to react to one of the comments in the comment section. I think the person who made the comment is, I don't know if I'm pronouncing rightly, but it's D Iaye Fatau. If I'm pronouncing rightly, his comment was, or his or her comment was, your idea of living with an African man is okay. I think that's not. He made a comment on sorry. Okay, you're propagating the negative idea of tribe through a Western lens. Please stop. Go study your past and how your ancestors lived with each other. Then he also made mention of, please stop badmouthing ethnicity and tribes in Africa. You know, at the beginning of today's episode, we made mention of tribal differences and little struggles amongst us in the African continent. I just want to clear the fact that we are not bad mouthing our tribes. No, we are not. What we are trying to do is make it open, make it known to us that this internal struggles shouldn't be there. We are one, irrespective of our minor differences. Not bad mouthing or saying, oh, this one is bad, or this tribe is good, or no, or saying, oh, we just use tribal differences as excuse to political instability and all of the likes in the African continent. So that's not the case of us bad mouthing, because I really would not, I really would
Right.
never
Never.
badmouth where I come from, because if I'm not who I am, if I'm not African, then who I am,
But
who am
but
I?
And the one thing I just want to connect to that, because even in talking about this round in this space, that would never be what this is, right? But speaking truths to understand what we're going through is the only way we'll identify the good and the bad. One thing about perspectives is that we all have our own individual perspectives, but the problem is we don't give authority or even reality to other people's perspectives, even if it's not our own, right? And when we're able to give even a realization to, okay, I understand that's how you saw it, then you open people's mentality to be able to see it how you see it too. So we would never be down mouthing our lands, our communities, our people. But when I say to you, for example, we throw SA under the rug and we need to pay attention and talk to that, I'm not down mouthing us. That's a very honest truth that we need to stop doing. We need to stop internalizing outside colonistic ideologies and bringing it within and devastating ourselves internally with hatred that should not be there for no merit, no reason, no acclaim, no you are me, I am you, Ubuntu.
And
you know what I
also,
mean?
being able for us to be able to solve problems, we need to be able to call them out.
In that order.
It's not,
That was my nice way of saying what you just
yes,
said.
we are not bad mouthing. We just need to be able to speak. We need to make it normal in pointing out what is wrong with society so that we are able to fix the problems.
Right.
We can't keep sweeping it under the rug.
Right.
We are here today because the generations before us kept sweeping it under the rug. Like, no, we are not discussing that.
Yeah.
And then it's brewed a generation of people who have no idea why we hate each other. And now we need to go back and have that discussion so that we're able to fix it for ourselves and the generation that's coming.
Yeah. And the one thing we all are, I can't say all, but the majority of us in what she just said, throughout the planet are millennials right now, and change comes with us. I don't know if you understand that, but throughout the planet, we are all millennials right now. Change comes with us. I literally believe, and I'm just saying it because I'm Haitian, but just again, work with me. Not just the 1 year, but in the acclaim of revolution, 1804 is back with the millennials, and they know it. Okay? Meaning a revolution that won is back and perpetuated all our freedoms afterwards. But that started in 1492. Okay. So when I say we are back, I just want to say we're speaking truths to power. We're not sweeping things under the rug. We're coming. If you have, they own homes, we own homes. They own stock, we own stock. They have a school and they want to whatever, no worries, we have a school. We're a different breed and a different type. And that's why we can even be on a platform like this this is a global show right now. You know what I mean? And I just think, I just want to speak that truth to that power, that the millennials are a different look. Okay.
Yep.
And I think we really need to understand how powerful we are. Even what you would consider our opposition thinks differently in a millennial mentality. I'm not trying to butter anything. I'm just saying the millennials are a global difference of everyone born from the year 1982 to 1992. Period. That's a change. That's a global change. Right? So on that note, Tuna Checky TV, thank you, because we stayed a little longer than we were supposed to, but this was an amazing conversation. Mike, I appreciate you, and you gave me a different look into you, and I'm just honored to even get to the fact that I know you. I thank you for being here. I'm glad that we're going to be continuing our work, and I hope you are able to come back to our platform again, because I would love to have those conversations, especially with the male perspective of what's going on, how you see, and maybe we can even come together on some ahas. My queens, I love you. I love you. I love our crew. I love our team. I love coming to this platform on a monthly basis. And I really can't wait till we get to give our audience a little more behind the scenes with us and maybe be able to engage in some conversations like this on our hopefully upcoming podcast and
Yes.
endeavors that we're planning to bring to the audience so you can get to know it's each of us on an individual level. And I love you too. You know what I mean? Because you guys just give me strength every time on here. You know, the nine of us are just a dynamic team. So, you know, everyone just I want you to be able to give your goodbyes to the audience. Oh, and before I'll do something while we wrap up because I do have to close it out with our the whole fundraiser. But go ahead and give because I love you guys. So give your goodbyes.
Kwaheri, and thank you so much for coming. Sending love from Kenya and all my African people, of course, everyone in diaspora, sending you love.
Yeah, and me, I'm sending love to you all from Nigeria. Thank you for watching and thank you for joining us now and always. So look forward to seeing you all in our next episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Mike, where you coming from?
I'm hailing from Atlanta, Georgia.
And I'm coming to you from Norwalk, Connecticut. So we got two US people here. Okay. We got two continental people. Okay. We here, y'all. We here. So thank you,
Yeah.
everybody. And the last thing I do want to show before I let everybody off, but I'm just going to remove everyone. Don't leave me, but we're just going to move everyone out. Thank you again, everyone, for being a part of our show. I just want to point out this is a collaborative thing that we're trying to do. We are raising money for Haiti, and with GPAN, we are a part of making our global issues all of our issues. We want to take care of our continent of our island of Haiti and our continent of Africa. Please also don't forget that we still have the sanitation napkins that we are doing to get women sanitation, reusable sanitation undergarments so that they don't have to be concerned about how they get pads. We thank you for being here again. Tuna Cheki TV. You guys are an amazing audience. United States of Africa, GPAN, our global Queens group. Everybody just watching Facebook, YouTube. Thanks for growing with us. We appreciate you. And on that note, we will see you next month. Take care. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Take care.